Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Noni Davis, and I am here coming to you from St. C Academy in North Carolina. And yes, I want to give honor to my parents, my father, William Edward Davis, who the late William Edward Davis, and my mother, Sylvia Davis, who I co founded St. C Academy with them. And now I am the current owner. And, coming to you from Dr. Noni Shule, and we today I wanted to talk about, we'll continue the conversation about spies, but also because it's memorial, we just celebrated Memorial Day, or what was uh, in, initially began as Decoration Day. It's and how it is tied to Harriet Tubman, who is the last spy, part of the Black Dispatch that I wanted to discuss. These were the Black Dispatch, in case we didn't, I mean, just to recap what happened last week, was a group of African Americans who were enslaved and freed, who uh, acted as spies during the Civil War. And because of them, even General Robert E. Lee conceded that it was the Africans who made it possible because of their ability to be pretty much innocuous, of course, hidden in plain sight spies who were able to take information that was freely discussed in front of them and pass it on to the Union, and because of them, they were able to defeat the Confederacy. So, we are the reason why we are free. It's not white people that freed us. It was Africans. It was the Civil War soldiers, and it was the African Black Dispatch. We fought for our own freedom, and that's the reason why we're here. And of course, people don't want to talk about it, but we just wanted to today honor Harriet Tubman, the Queen Mother Warrior, who also know, I mean, our Araminta Ross, who is also known as Harriet Tubman, but her first name was Araminta. And we just also want to give thanks for Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, who made her honorary Brigadier General Harriet Tubman in Maryland for the National Guard. She deserved all of that and more. So, Mama Harriet was born Araminta Ross. And what now, Araminta is an interesting name because I know quite a few African women. Amina is one of our names, and you have Aminata. And I was like, where did this name come from? And so, of course, I pulled up AI, and of course, AI was like, oh, it's a combination of Arabelle and I think Arabelle is something else, Arabella and Aminta, which are supposedly Greek names. And I'm not gonna fight with you, but Aramint, if Minty, I know people who are called Minty that are in Africa. So what I did is I went and looked it up through I said that's the origin, the Greek origin and the English origin. And I don't think I know any black white woman named Aminta. I'm like, Arabelle, yeah, but Minta? Anyway, so Araminta or Amanata is a West African name from Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. And I met so many African women with this name from West Africa. And they said it can also be traced to consider a Swahili name from West Africa, from East Africa. And so Amina is also of Arabic origin. And so African people took range during their enslavement. I believe that a lot of the names that were passed on, I have a great great grandmother. She was born in 1812. Her name was Ada, uh, Ada, Ada or Ada or whatever you want to say it, is an West African name. So there are a lot of people who are passing these names on to their kids, even in spite of what master was the white master was trying to tell them what to do, and some of them probably didn't even care what they named. We're gonna name them Sally. You can call them what you want to. But anyway, um, the name Amina, which is a shorter version of Aminata, it means trustworthy and faithful, honest, strength, reliability, and virtue. And I'm always surprised at how much these names actually represent the folks, are representative of the person who is given this name. And so, um, I was like, reliability, okay, virtue, honest, faithful, trustworthy, strong, all of those things describe Harriet Tubman. And so, like I said, so this is also, I just believe that the parents are trying to maintain some kind of connection to the African ancestry. And so, Mama Harriet Araminta Ross Tubman was probably a descendant of the Guatemala Songhai Empire. Now, there is a claim that she was Ashanti. And so, they probably had a variation of the name. I know a lot of these cultures also had a lot of Islamic influence, and so the same would have been with Ghana at that time. But also with the knowledge that she had, Mama Harriet had of plants, her knowledge of astronomy, she knew how to follow the North Star. She was very aware of weather patterns and also medicinal plants. And so, because she had this knowledge, would have been knowledge that she would have inherited from her African ancestors. We were well educated when we came here. Many of us were writing in Arabic, and 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 reading and writing in Arabic. And so we had our own thing going, intelligence going, and then of course there's a lot of transcription of text at Timbuktu, Mali, and Timbuktu that were translated into Hausa and Fula and what else? I'm trying to think. Um, Hausa Fula, maybe even Yoruba. Uh, Translated, they were writing using that language to write text in Guatemala Songhai. So Mama Araminta changed her name to Harriet after her mother, Harriet Green, and took the name Tubman when she married her husband, John Tubman. Now, Mama Harriet was born in March 1822 um, in Dorchester County, Maryland. Her father was Ben Ross, and her mother was an enslaved woman who was enslaved by Mary Patterson Broadus and her husband Anthony Thompson. And so Mama Harriet's grandmother was an African, like I said, an Ashanti woman, is believed. So Mama Harriet's resistance, her attitude, when I was doing this research, they said one of the reasons they believe that this resistance attitude was cultivated in her is because her mom had 9 children, and she wanted to do everything she could. Mama Harriet, or Rit, as she was nicknamed, she was going to keep her 9 children, and so, or do anything she could. So they said that one day the Broadus family decided to sell 3 of her daughters. Did I write down the rest of their names? But when they tried to sell her youngest son, she lost her mind and said, and she threatened the guy who was trying to purchase her baby. She's like, y'all not buying no more of my children. And she said, I will knock you upside the head I'm gonna bust your head wide open if you try to take my son. And so she was fierce. And they said apparently the man said it ain't worth it. And so she was able to keep the other 6 of her children were not sold away. And so Harriet, that must have been her first lesson from her mother. Oh, I can say no. I ain't got to deal with this. I ain't got to go get along. I ain't got to do all that. And understood that her rights as a human being were violated, but it didn't mean she had uh, to comply. She could resist. And so there are popular stories about Mama Harriet's childhood. She was forced to be a nursemaid. This blew my mind because I have 4 and 5-year-old children here at St. C Academy. They made this baby a wet nurse to an infant when she was between 5 and 6 years old. And if the baby cried, they would beat her mercilessly. And so she was severely disciplined with a whip. And so I consider this absolute negligence by the parents of this white child to make a 5-year-old responsible for the e- emotional needs of an infant. So, this is the insanity we had going on in this country. People were absolutely crazy. So, there is also the story of how Harriet Araminta received her head injury um, when she was a white uh, uh, overseer was trying to capture uh, an African who was trying to escape. And somehow, they got into a fight. And Harriet Tubman was there. And somehow, I don't know whether she was actually trying to defend the man or the black man or what. Maybe she was. But in the interim, the white overseer threw, what is it? What size was it? She was about a teenager, a 2 pound weight. He threw a 2 pound weight that hit her in her head and caused a significant brain injury. Now, um, they said this caused her to develop quite a bit of head trauma, and they said a temporal lobe. Today, they said it would have been a temporal lobe epilepsy due to the brain injury. However, Mama Harriet began to experience these dreams sequences and visions. Um, and because she was, they were centering the Christ, that 33 page, that 33 chapter slave Bible that the white folks wanted black people to read. She was able to navigate through those stories and see that the Bible find those stories that were emblematic of a fight for freedom. And so instead of, she didn't accept that framework that these Europeans were selling. She said, I ain't drinking y'all's Kool-Aid. I ain't drinking y'all's Kool-Aid. I'm so So this is everybody know, most people know Mama Harriet. There she is, Mama Harriet Tubman. And so she used those biblical stories and transformed the message into a message of freedom. So she was probably one of the first people we would call the liberation theology. Um, Harriet Tubman decided that she was not going to uh, stay as enslaved, and they said her first escape was with her brothers. So they planned it. I think they said the first time she escaped was in 1849 with her brothers, and she got pretty far away. But then they chickened out, and they said we ain't doing this. They got scared and wanted to go back home, and so she went back with them. And apparently they hadn't been gone long enough to be discovered, but so but they had to go back. They went back. But a couple months later, she said, I ain't doing this no more. I'm out. And they said before she left, she sang some spiritual songs so that everybody knew that she was leaving. So her mother would know that she said, I can't stay here no more. I ain't got long to be here. I'm out. I'm out. And they're not sure of how long it took or whatever or all that was involved, but we know that she had a serious knowledge of astronomy, like I said before. Navigation. Africans were using the stars to navigate at night. They knew how to do this. They were navigating the stars through the desert across the Sahara. They were using it on the water, and so she had that, and so she was able to follow the North Star combined with her understanding of the Underground Railroad. So at this point, she's in Maryland. Philadelphia is not that far. And so she was able to, probably overheard what was going on with the Underground Railroad, and was able to make it safely from Maryland to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I think she passed through William Steele's Underground Railroad station. And you remember he was worked for a printer press, and undercover. He was a serious abolitionist, and I think hundreds of people came through his station, and he recorded their stories. And I think I mentioned him last week when I was talking about Mr. Galloway, who came through. Abraham Galloway was one of the people who came through his stop too, and these people were like powerful. Anyway, so Harriet was there too. And but she started when she got home. She was like, got to Philadelphia. She's like, I don't want to be here by myself. I gotta go get my family. And so she made it. She just eventually journeyed south, at first for her family and members. And so between 1851 and 1862, so that's 11 years, um, Mama Harriet led 70 people to their freedom, and a lot of them were her family members. But she also supported 60 other people, so that's about 130 people. And by assisting them, the other 60, she helped them to find their way through to the different Underground Railroad houses, the different pathways to take. Who would help you, who would not, and so she was able to advise these people. So the 11 years she spent traveling undercover from Maryland, Eastern Shore to Philadelphia became her training ground for espionage, because this is what the Underground Railroad was. This is nothing but espionage. And all of the people who were on the Underground Railroad, including William Steele, should be considered part of the Black Dispatch, because they were like definitely doing this thing, knowing that their lives could be taken at any moment. So Mama Harriet had to master the landscape between Maryland and Philadelphia. She had to understand the rivers, any waterways that they were going to cross to get safe. She had to be familiar with, like I said, the landscape, and also medicinal knowledge, in case somebody got hurt, whatever. And I know that they use medication, not medication, but like stuff like valerian and things, chamomile, whatever was available in the forest, to help keep babies quiet so they were not crying while they were traveling. But you also had to be mindful of snake bites, all kinds of injuries. And so she had to know all kinds of medicinal knowledge from plants, and how to heal people, or help people who were seriously injured. Um, and she also had to know what was edible, because there were going to be moments where they were not going to have access to food. Harriet also learned about safe houses, how to identify which ones were safe, and many of the houses, some of the ways that they oh oh here, Ariel, it's here. I mean, Amira, she came back.
Okay, hand it to me.
Where is it?
Wait,
Shh.
it's right behind you.
Okay.
Hand it here. I got it.
Sorry.
No, stop.
Sorry, y'all. Okay, so she forgot it. Yes. Okay. Okay, so many of the houses had ways of signaling runaways, and these signals included quilts with special symbols on them that were hung on the porch. They could have a star pattern. They could have scenery of the landscape, and like a map. if you will, of the passageway, how to get to the river, and what kind of houses would be along the river. Um, there were white bricks that would be placed around the top of chimneys, and that was an indicator that this was a safe house. Um, they also atop the chimney, right? Okay, and then there were verbal calls. So if a person hooted like an owl 3 times in a row, or gave any kind of whistle or whatever, these or in a certain rhythm, that these were indications of who uh, of somebody is coming and trying to get say into a safe place, and the doors would be open. They had secret codes like rhythmic knocking, or a special phrase or a song that let a home know that a passenger had arrived. Houses were also designed with secret rooms, and when we went to the black um, uh, wax um, let's see, what is it, Black Wax Museum, Blacks and Wax Museum up in Maryland. They had a replica of a house, and you could see that people uh, were coming through the front door, and the Africans were moving through these walls that were false walls, looked like bookcases. They had you can secret pathways. There were tunnels that led to houses or caves. We learn about that in the House of Dyer's Dreer, how the whole house was full of secret passageways and sliding doors and mirrors and all kinds of stuff, where Africans could escape to tunnels and get away from slave catchers. So, um, so back to 1863, or to the South Carolina thing. What I had always heard when Harriet Tubman was when I was learning about Harriet Tubman, that she had saved about almost like uh, a couple hundred people, maybe 200 or 300 people. What I didn't know was that it was really closer to almost 1,000 people um, that she actually saved. Um, in 1863, Mama Harriet led the largest emancipation effort um, by commanding a ring of spies and scouts and marine pilots to free 756 Africans. So, you add the 130 that she influenced, and, it probably was significantly more, plus the 756, that's giving you like a little over 800 people, right? Close to 900. And so, if you give and take some of the people that she influenced by happenstance, this lady was involved, got about almost 1,000 people out of enslavement. And so she was down there in South Carolina. So, of course, like we said before, she was doing what Black people do, pretending to be a maid. And so the Union Army hired Mama Harriet to penetrate the Confederate territory. So they got her behind the lines and to Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, Mama Harriet pretended to be an enslaved woman and working on the plantation, and of course, she gathered intelligence. And how does she gather intelligence? She would ask the coachman, "What did you hear about today?" And ask the maids, "What did you hear about today?" And the cooks, "What conversation did you hear?" And the servers during dinner, "What did you hear?" And she gathered all this information from these workers, these Africans who were working in these houses and working for these large plantation owners, and they gladly provided her with all the important information. Now, what the details? They said, trying to think. What did I missed? I think I missed it. Did I forget it? No. So they provided her with details regarding Confederate troops, of course, the movement, and like we said in the past, in the earlier part of this particular series, that she was that they wanted to know where the troops were moving, what kind of garrisons were they building, or campsites, where were they, what where. what were they in proximity to the Union? Like, did they what the set areas were they moving into? Um, and also the quality of life in the camps. I mean, were these people healthy? Were they was what was the morale like of the soldiers in these Union camps? And so, what was their health condition? Because a lot of people were dying from all kinds of unsanitary conditions in that during this time. But anyway, she was like, okay, I'm gathering this information. And so one of the things that the other things that we were doing. So this is the Kambihi Kambai River, and this is the area where she was that she went down to, and so this area was the rice is gold. They said cotton is king. Well, in South Carolina, rice was gold. Rice was gold. They made so much money off of this rice, and so this is a picture of oh wait a minute of Africans out there it, doing this rice uh, under work. I mean, they said that hundreds of Africans worked on these plantations, and it was dangerous because you can see it's swampy. So you got snakes, you got mosquitoes, you got malaria. There were horrible conditions. But on June 23rd, no, June 2nd, which is in next week, 1863, Mama Harriet led a crew of two regiments of black U.S. Army soldiers, the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers. Oh, Lord, I just dropped that. So what I have is a picture of some of those soldiers. They said wait a minute, this is the first South year of Jubilee. Let me see that I get another picture. Uh, United States color. This is another group, United States Colored Troops, um, and these were the people. She led two regiments, or was it three? Oh, two regiments of U.S. Army black U.S. Army soldiers, the Second South Carolina Volunteers, and their white commanders. She was bossing the white men at this time. All right. And so then they had three gunboats that were coming down the Combahee River, and they landed. The black soldiers proceeded to burn down 8 rice plantations and freed 756 Africans. This was what's the name? Brigadier General Harriet Tubman in Maryland's National Guard. Yes, that's who she. That's who she is. That was who this lady is. I mean, amazing. And so, what I wanted to do is share a poem. I hope I have time to share this poem um, that uh, that I learned a long time. And this poem was written by Eloise Greenfield, and it's called Harriet Tubman. And so it goes, Harriet Tubman didn't take no stuff, wasn't scared of nothing neither, didn't come into this world to be no slave, and wasn't going to stay one either. Farewell, she sang to her friends one night. She was mighty sad to leave them. But she ran away that dark, hot night. She ran looking for her freedom. She ran to the woods. She ran through the woods with a slave catchers right behind her. And she kept on going till she got to the north where those mean men couldn't find her. 19 times she went back south to get 300 others. And so this is Eloise Greenfield's version. She ran for freedom 19 times to save sisters and brothers. Harriet Tubman didn't take no stuff, wasn't scared of nothing either. Didn't come into this world to be no slave, and didn't stay one neither. And didn't stay one either. I love that point. And so Eloise Greenfield. And so This is who she was. This lady was amazing. And she literally ended up saving about 1,000 people. And over that 11-year period, well, if you add 1863, over that 12, 13-year period, this woman was something else. And she deserves all of that Brigadier General Harriet Tubman in Maryland of the Maryland National Guard. Give thanks to Wes Moore for doing that for her. And soon after that, we had Decoration Day, and I'll just show you a quick picture of us. And this was Black people were so honored, the dead soldiers who had fought for their freedom in the Civil War. They dug up their bodies and decided to give them a honorable burial. This was African Americans and white soldiers that they did this for. And the first celebration was May 1st, 1865, I believe. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look. But that was the first Memorial Day. And so we give thanks. Ashe, ashe, oh. And I apologize for the disturbance. That was unintended. Oh, my students left something and came back to get it. And I understand that. But anyway, these little kids, they love this little stuff. Anyway.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy. So we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
They were never supposed to win. In a system built to keep Black families landless, one decision changed everything. Bitter Ground's Inheritance tells the true story of heirs who fought through Jim Crow, courts, challenges, and silence to claim land, wealth, and legacy. Told by descendant Captain Newborn, this is more than a story, it's a rare victory. A must-read that exposes America's hidden past. Get your copy today.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mother.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.